So we want to, as I mentioned before, like we want to be as real as possible, because I feel like that's the only way. Not only our prospective students, whether they're first year students or transfers or non-traditional age, because we do have non-traditional age students at the college, but also our current students, our faculty, our staff, that they are also aware of what's going on and want to follow us. And even the fact that, President Wu is on our TikTok account, and he's, people are loving that. So, a very famous celebrity at the campus. But yeah, so it's all about, that growth and learning how to lead and learning how to work with others. And I think that's a big component. So, but yeah, I mean, we could go on and on about the work that we do. Yeah. But let me ask you, is there something that you would want to be doing more of or fulfilling, or that you wanted to do in college that you might have not gotten a chance to? Like, is there anything that you're like, oh, I want to do this, like, really badly?
Probably start a podcast. I mean, looking back at it, I don't think my 17 or 18-year-old self would have ever envisioned pitching an idea and bringing it to fruition alongside a team like the one that I have. And so the whole reason why I pitched the podcast was because I wanted to build something to showcase the college and its community to prospective students, their families, even currently enrolled students. I think there's so much about Baruch that you can find online. The college has a really strong reputation when it comes to academics, professors, and everything of that. But when it comes to the actual experience and the community and the students that we have, I think this is what the podcast will do. And so, yeah, just putting everything into this is something that I wish I could have done in college.
And I think it came from, remind me, a post you saw on Reddit, right? A platform about, or even like a
TikTok. It was the TikTok.
It was a TikTok that asked about what was life like at Baruch or something, and like people just said it was boring, or that it was a commuter school. I don't remember the exact words.
So I could talk a little bit more about that. I mean, unfortunately, that is the experience for some students. They do just come to class and go home, and for whatever reason, that's perfectly fine. But I think for someone like myself, and hopefully for someone like Nicole, that isn't the experience. I had a great time at Baruch. Even in the midst of a pandemic, I still ended up leaving the college like, yeah, I would do this again. And so that's where the whole podcast came about. This is a place where people are going to spend the next 4 or 5 years of their life. And so even something like this that shows them a glimpse of what we're all about, I just feel fulfilled knowing that I did my part and showing that there's more to the college than just the academics. I mean, I think that's pretty obvious that you come to a college because you want to strengthen yourself, and challenge yourself academically, but you want to have fun too, and you want to have a social life, and you want to make memories. And so that's what this podcast is.
Talking about fun and making memories, what was not the process, because I think it's different for everybody, especially if you are an introvert or extrovert, or depending on your social scale, like making friends like at a large institution, because now we're considered large. How is that like? Is it hard? Like, was it
starting here last semester, I know that a lot of our business courses, well, I can only talk about business courses because I'm taking that, but a lot of it does involve a lot of group work. And coming from high school, I was like, ew, I don't want to do that. But I actually did enjoy my business class, business 2001, I don't remember.
Don't ask me the numbers.
There was this group project that we have to do in like in our recitation class, and I did make pretty decent amount of friends there. And this semester too, in most of my classes, I did make a decent amount of friends, because a lot of people are very open to talk to you. If you just, either it takes you to start the conversation or it takes them to start it, but it just takes something, and then you just don't stop. And I saw that TikTok that it said, Baruch is a commuter school, you won't usually make a lot of friends because everyone doesn't care. Everyone just wants to go home, complete their degree and everything. Which I was like, because I may be an introvert, but I want to talk to people, right? So seeing that the experience here was already different when I started, I enjoyed that. I did make a lot of friends. Maybe we lost connection, but hey, at least we were talking during the whole semester.
Yeah.
That's
good.
And yeah, those 4 years do go by fast. I'm already in my second year and I still can't believe it. So I think next semester I'll push myself to join clubs, because I'm here every day for a long time.
Yes.
But it's usually because I'm working, but it doesn't feel like work, so it feels like more like time to socialize.
But you are working because
yeah,
you're
but-
always doing something.
But it's fun. So like you mentioned that saying in the beginning, if you enjoy something you do, it doesn't feel like work.
Exactly.
That's
And
very true.
my mom tells me like, why are you working so much? But I'm like, but I'm not working. Like, it doesn't feel like I'm working, even though I am.
No, that makes perfect sense, because, and I don't want to date myself, but when I was a college student, I was also a tour guide, and I had no idea what I was getting into. And I started off as a volunteer, and I was like putting my time, but I felt like I was making friends. I was like having that connection, so you don't feel like you're working. I mean, eventually I ended up getting paid for what I was doing, but the recognition of just like noticing people, and like now it's, you know, very much different in terms of the connections that I've made. But along the years, seeing our tour guides and our ambassadors, just like, and everything that they've done, and they're so successful in what they do, it's definitely something. And you know, I feel like another shameless plug for our undergraduate missions welcome center. Like that is literally where a lot of our friends are made, and I continue to have friends from when I was, you know, an ambassador, and they're always there. Your college friends are always there, even if as an adult. Like, we might not always have the time, but you know that they're there. So, I mean, you had that 6-week immersion program for Seek. Did that help you?
Oh yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, I'm from Queens originally, and so all of my friends and everything was in a 10-mile radius. And so being one of the few people from my high school to come to Baruch was definitely a bit of a challenge at first. I was going from being a big fish in like a small pond to being a little fish in a giant ocean. And so that's why I'm so immensely grateful for Seek, because they were the first community I had when I came to Baruch. And so those 6 weeks, you are in the trenches because you're coming straight out of high school and you want to enjoy your summer, but you know that you have to do this in order to come to Baruch. And it's still to this day one of the most memorable experiences I had. You know, making friends while you're waiting for your Seek orientation, or struggling to get together a book report for the end of the 6-week program. And so that was my first experience making friends at Baruch, was through Seek. And then slowly, as I started to become more active on campus, right, becoming a tour guide, becoming a peer mentor, getting involved in club life. So when I was a student, I was director of events for a professional-based organization on the campus called ALPHA, stands for the Association of Latino Professionals for America. And I did it initially because I thought I was going to go the corporate route, and it just felt like the best fit at the time. But I realized, again, that maybe corporate wasn't the best fit for me at all. But I ended up leaving that experience not only with a bunch of friends, because who knows, I might go through another rebrand and end up going to corporate anyway. At least I have that network, right, of not just colleagues, but people who I would consider my friends. And so I left my time at Baruch making friends, having an extensive network. And so that's a little bit about my experience making friends at Baruch.
You know, I was thinking the other day, I was like, wow, like, we are, the three of us, and I know a lot of the students here at Baruch, we are first generation college students in our families, and that is impactful. Like, you know, what we are doing, and just trying to work our way up and make a name for ourselves. And I think that's, and I give kudos to both of you and our team, because that's a lot of work, just trying to be heard and be seen. But I think that's another flexibility that we're given here at Baruch, and it definitely makes me proud.
Yeah.
So I feel like a little mama for you.
Yeah.
But
Getting very emotional right now.
I know, it's supposed to be like, oh yeah, like very laid back, but like
we just start crying.
We just start crying, or we were either laughing, and we could go all ways.
Yeah.
If you had to give your 17-year-old self, looking at college applications and figuring out what you wanted to do, what would it be? And when it was like changing your majors or whatever you were doing, and I know yours was a little different because you were living in a pandemic, but what would be an advice that you would give your high school self?
The beginning of my high school experience, I would tell myself to talk to people. I like not just making friends wise, but just putting myself out there more. And during this whole time, I was like changing my major, deciding where I wanted to go. I would tell myself to calm down, because I made myself even more nervous, because I was like, I don't want to lose a whole semester. That's the whole reason why I did call my old teacher from senior year. I was like, I need help, and she was so nice, and she's the whole reason I went to QCC, because she advised me to go to QCC so I can just like calm down, do some classes, and then just go to Baruch.
And it's easy to transfer, right?
Yeah.
Especially within a CUNY school.
They had all my documents there, so I just had to apply, and it's free if you go to CUNY, so I didn't have to pay anything. And yeah, I would mostly just tell myself to put myself out there more, even though it did take time, but I'm doing it now. I wish I would have started earlier.
Yeah, but you are growing. You're definitely putting yourself out there. You were the one that asked President Wu for a picture.
Yeah.
Hey,
I'm scared to talk to President Wu sometimes.
Yeah, I need some help. Like, can you help me talk to him? Because and he's like very cool and down to earth.
Yeah.
So, but you did it.
Yeah.
So definitely growing. What would be an advice you would give your 17-year-old self?
My 17-year-old self coming to Baruch the advice I would give her is try everything, because you never know. I was so laser focused on doing business, going the corporate route, and setting the bar way too high for myself, that I didn't give myself a chance to explore other opportunities until it was time for me to do so. I had to switch my major. It would not have been great for not only my mental health, but also academically had I stayed on the Zicklin route. And so had I told my first year self, just try it, just try something different, go to a new club, talk to someone new in class, research something different than you normally would, I think I would have came to that conclusion earlier, and maybe saved my GPA a little bit. But I think it's all a learning experience, right? And so it goes back to what I was saying earlier, like that's one of the first lessons I learned at Baruch, is that not everything is set in stone, and it's just as important to know what you don't like as it is important to know what you do like. And yeah, that's probably what I would tell my 17-year-old self. I don't know if she'd listen, but I would tell her regardless.
That is very true, because we think when we're teenagers we know it all. But
yeah.
Then you're like, oh, I don't know anything.
Yeah, that's a lot of pressure to put on yourself.
And that's another thing. Like, I feel like that one of the things we should always be mindful is not to be hard on ourselves, no matter what stage of life you are, because nothing is perfect, and things will always change. But yes, having those experiences and being open to them is definitely important. So yeah, it's definitely a learning process, and I think that's what college is all about.
Yeah,
as we always say it. I guess one of the final things I want to talk about for our preseason is, what do you hope, or what do you expect out of at least our first season of the podcast? Like, what is the goal for this?
To be renewed for a second season. No, I'm kidding. I think, like I said earlier, is to give a glimpse of what Baruch really is, behind the academics, all the accolades, awards, all of that is great. We have a strong enough reputation. I think that's why a lot of us applied to Baruch in the first place, was for the reputation and the academics. But there's so much more to Baruch and being a Baruch student, right? Every student has a different experience. And so hopefully that's what we can bring forth with this podcast, is for whoever's applying, whether you're a 17-year-old kid in high school ready to apply, or you're a transfer student, you just finished your first semester and you want to go to Baruch, this is what the Baruch experience is like. And so that's my hope with this. I don't know about you, Nicole.
My hope for this is, like we've been saying, to keep it real, right? Like Michelle said, you can look up Baruch College in Google and find so many things, but you won't be able to talk to a Baruch student and tell them, so how was your experience? Like, everyone's experience is different. So even if you do survey like 20 Baruch students, you won't get the same answer, and like that's okay, right? And you make what you want of Baruch, because there's many resources. So I hope this podcast does send that vibe to people.
Yes.
Just make your 4 years like matter.
Yeah, and make it meaningful, make it memorable,
Yeah.
as you were saying, Michelle. And I know while we're trying to make sure that this is definitely successful, we have been a little bit hard on ourselves and trying to make sure we're making this right. And I guess my goal for this is that we have fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a new project, it's a new venture, and you know, I just wanted to have fun, because when we have fun, these are the great things that come out of it. And you know, we can just hope for the best.
Yes.
You know? So thank you both for coming on this journey with me. Thank you for providing the idea. And you know, I would have been like, what?
A podcast?
A podcast?
Us?
Yeah.
Yes.
But thank you for bringing the idea. Thank you for coming along this journey. And you know, our interns are definitely hard at work as well, and you know, trying to see where our social media handles go. So thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yes,
Thank
thank you for having us.